Welcome to Visibility by Design podcast with your host, Juliette Stapleton. In this show, I want to help you combine your marketing strategies and your human design potential so you can show up, stand out, and attract your perfect clients with confidence and ease. Are you ready? Enjoy the show.
Hi guys, welcome back to Visibility by Design. And I am so excited because I want to introduce you someone that I've been working with for the last year, Amanda Ling, and all the way from Singapore.
Woohoo.
And we are so excited because we're here to present a brand new, just finished project, just launched, and it's Amanda's new book, Align, which is actually kind of like her name, Amanda Ling, A.Ling, Align. And it's also a framework that she is working with. Amanda is an amazing, very, very, special person for me. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm starting to introduce her because Amanda has, in her 20s, has been really famous in the Singapore music scene, right? A figure. So very, very famous, a lot of projections. She's a 5-1, let me just say. She's a 5-1 generator. So there was like this big, reputation. There's a lot of projections. There's a lot of stories with that, and then there is also with the one line, there are so many modalities and backgrounds than are stacking on top of that, from sound healing, talking about still music and the yoga and, decluttering. Amanda was the first person to be trained and, then certified, in Marie Kondo's decluttering method, KonMari method. I think it's really awesome credibility marker to have. I was the first. Yes. And I love how from the outside, this is just kind of evolving more and more and more with the inner decluttering. And this is what this book is about. There's a drive to guide, to fix the mess, that the 5-line has. And then the 1 line was the synthesis of all the things that it studies, of all the experiences. And it's not about even the study. I really don't like when in human design, with the first line, it's like, it's just about the study. It's not. It's the search for the bottom line to get it, to really understand why. Because you can study and still not have a clue. And we have a lot of people in the world like that, but it's about like getting the bottom line. And therefore, I find that when you're dealing with the 1 line and the body 1 line is really beautiful because it's processing all these details and then it's teaching they're really good teachers, but it's unique. It's a unique experience. It's unique perspective. And this is what makes this book for me such a wonderful representation of like really aligned, I'm going to use this word, awesome. Aligned 5-1, and a generator, because the generator's existential question is, who am I? So, this is the book that is very personal and it's based on a personal story as well. This is not a how-to book. And yet at the same time, through getting familiar with Amanda's personal journey, we're actually getting such a clear and practical guidance and advice. So Amanda, welcome to the show. And I'm just really, really excited to have you here.
Thank you for your wonderful introduction, with music, with sound healing, decluttering. Everything that I have done so far, it's actually really helping people to align, whether it's sound, aligning to the mind, the peace of the mind, aligning to the body movement, or music is just going with the flow of the beats and the music. Aligning them to joy and create the creativity. And moving through my own process, Align wasn't really kind of overly thought through in that sense, but I felt like I wanted to keep the spirit of Align in my next venture, in my next phase of work and everything that I do. And it so happened that Align, it's kind of like a word play of my name, like Amanda Ling, A.Ling, and it's just, a mix of word play on that. And I'm like, yeah, I think the answer is right in front of us sometimes, right? And Align, in that sense, it's a framework, it came through me, not like in a very structured way, but it's through my, I would say, 20 over years of my own experiences going through the highs and lows of the seasons and exploring different modalities. And the line is really more of a 5-phase process. So like breaking it down, like A is for awareness, L is for letting go, I is for integrate, and G is for ground to grow. And the last one, N is for navigation. So in itself, they are processes. If you think about it, they aren't really, I have a multitude of modalities that I can tap into. And in my own journey, I have experienced, touching and exploring different well-being modalities and to find out what really sticks with me and what doesn't. But I notice there's always a process to it. It's always that sense of awareness that comes through to kind of understand what's going on. And then you realize that, okay, certain things don't actually work for me anymore, and I have to let them go, right? From that physical to the mental, emotional, and spiritual. And the next one is where integration comes, because, once we have that space or that awareness to let something go and you have done it, there's this sense of void. I think most people would resonate with that. There's, after you let something go, there's this like empty corner, or like you feel that sense of strange emptiness in your heart even sometimes. But that's actually where, to me, the very work is, in terms of holding that very tender space for it. And I do emphasize a lot on that in my book. Actually, there's 2 chapters, letting go and integration. To me, I think it's like the beef of a lot of the things. And ground to grow is really where, once you integrate, you kind of learn the lessons, let everything sit in. Then you kind of restart the process and recalibrate like your values, right? We have to start from a new ground. So what is this new ground? What is the values that might have shifted over time, right? Maybe certain intrinsic core values stay, but certain other elements shift according to your life seasons and phases. And that's where you kind of craft. That's where the creativity of that crafting that new ground comes through, from your sense of values. Who do you want to be? What do you want in your life? And with that sense of integrity to move forward, that it's in line with what you want rather than away. And it goes back to navigation, where it's basically forming that basic structure for anyone to kind of know that, okay, at any point of time, there's a certain compass, right? It's a compass to have like a navigation way of what happens if this happens. Scenario A happens, Scenario B happens, what can happen? And it's just finding that little thing for oneself. And navigation, to me, it's, we have our own inner GPS navigation system. And to me, it's the heart. Then, we overthink. So sometimes we just have to just create that space to move the energy down, to then bring more awareness. And most of the time I find that that's where the deep truths come out. That really is something that is what you want and the soul wants. So this 5-phase actually helps people to bring through, and this can be applied to anything in life, from, even though I have the certifications and I work with people in their physical clutter, but this is also where in the book I really talk a lot about the different kinds of clutter, right? Emotional clutter, mental clutter that can come out and look like negative self-talk, limiting beliefs, or, you harbor that grudge you have with someone for like 20 years and you haven't let it go, things like that. We kind of have to work that through. And so it could be applied to the different areas of life, and it creates that safe space, I would say, of a container that's only for the self. Yeah.
That is beautiful. What I'm hearing is, so you have the background from decluttering the actual physical world to assessing and grounding, and in a way decluttering your emotional, spiritual, mental world, and all the background that you have, these practices, the modalities that you've studied, they help do the both. So this framework helps integrate both the physical clarity around you, so that you can have inner clarity, so that you can feel a more aligned way of being. And that's
Exactly.
beautiful.
That is something that I do really love to highlight all the time because there's so much profound correlation to the relationship between the inner environments that we have in our minds and our hearts and the outer environment. So, and this is something that I experience myself and also like taking clients through or speaking to people in workshops. And more often than not, a lot of people trip up in letting go because they have attached emotions or memories, into the physical items. And that's where you can tell that, okay, it's more than one thing. It's not just a physical thing because the physical item is just a physical thing. But what makes it significant for the person is the memories, the emotions, the situations that reminds them of something in the past, both positive, both negative. And certain times, maybe sometimes you need to relook into whether the items or the emotions are going to serve them well moving forward, or is it just a block, a block into something that they want to create, but it's stopping them. Just like a trunk, a cupboard full of clothes, right? Or clutter. If people want new things, they should clear and then they can then get more new things in because if not, the new things come, it's not going to sit right, with the space that they have or a very limited capacity to hold a new thing. So, and I think that applies to all the different multifaceted areas of life.
That's so
Yeah.
true. It also made me think about, sometimes even if it's not clutter in a classic sense, but there's something that no longer serves you and you bring this piece, and I'm talking about physical world here, you bring this piece from your past, but it no longer means the same thing, or maybe there's attachment with some negative past experiences or feelings that you have with the thing. And I'm sure that we all been there, consciously or subconsciously, but when you remove that thing out of your environment, there is like new opens up. There's this beautiful place opens up. And that's what I'm hearing from you. My next question, who is the person who you would think this book would benefit the most right now? Where are they at?
They are at a life transition. They are at some sort of experiencing some kind of burnout, chaos in life. They're navigating a place where they might have outgrown their old self, but they know that they want to get into a newer version of themselves, but don't know where to start because of some kind of attachment to certain things or certain anxieties around letting go of stuff. People who are, of course, physical clutter on that level where they recognize that I really have too much things and I do really need to shave something down, but not knowing how to start. I mean, that's one of the most tangible ways to kind of like see that chaos. Yeah, so people that generally feel very overwhelmed with things in life, people who are dealing with so many things on their plate. They're taking on multiple roles in today's age and not knowing where to draw certain boundaries. And that's kind of eating them up, causing the burnout. Yeah, those are the people that might benefit from reading the book and to understand where they could create these different containers for themselves so that they are able to manage and hopefully eradicate some of that burnout
I love
feeling
that.
of it.
I read the book, and while I was reading the book, I caught myself that at the time of the book, and this is really beautiful, it came in such a good timing, because the chaos, you used the word chaos, the chaos I experienced was very much internal. And yet, looking around me, even though it wasn't like completely cluttered, hoarding place, obviously,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of little elements that were also cluttering and creating chaos, which your book is not about decluttering as such. Let's just be very clear. It is a very personal journey. It's a reflection of your inner world. There's a lot of you in the book that I really loved reading about because, as you were describing your experiences, I could definitely resonate and find echo, within, and actually finding really practical clear solutions, clear ways to see through that chaos. And of course, it's a journey and it's not something that happens overnight. But I think that these little insights were very, very, they were very, very personal to you. And yet they became very, very personal to me as a reader as well. So the chaos that one experiences, you know, might not be a huge all over the place thing, but it will feel like this internally. And, you know, we might be quite perfect on the outside, but what happens inside only we know. And I think that Align is the book that helps in those moments when you want to come from that chaos to calm. It's not yet the perfect life, but let's reorganize your thoughts, your feelings. Let's just give them labels, give them names, let go of things. And that's why, for me personally, your book was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So, with the book, you know, I loved getting to know you better. I felt like I really did feel like I looked inside your soul with this personal book. That's why I really enjoyed reading it. And what would be the next step for me to get more access into your world and your guidance and your help?
If you have read the book, every end of the chapter, there are these practical self-inquiry prompts. So certain chapters are pretty kind of like a reflective journaling approach, and to a prompt to make you reflect what are the areas that you need attention to. And there are some other chapters that are actually very action-based, like go to this place and see what needs to be decluttered, or go outside, step on the ground. You know, there's just different ways very tangibly to work with each chapter. So I would say the very first step is, if you have read the book, right, there's many ways to deal with it. Let's just put it that way. There are many ways to approach it. Either you read the book once through, you kind of thought through the self-inquiry prompts, or you can take each chapter at a time, right? You take each chapter, you can reread it. It's very simple read. Each chapter, at the end of each chapter, you have the self-inquiry prompts. Then you just take a time, right? You just spend and commit a time to just journal on that. Perhaps like leave a couple of days between chapters. Then you tackle the next chapter and the next prompt. So there's more spaciousness in between, because you never know where all these little nuggets of wisdom you might access within yourself through the different moments that you create. And that's something that I actually highlight in my integration chapter, that spaciousness. So I would actually highly recommend that approach first, like take each chapter at a time, do the prompts and see how you feel, and through the different phases, but try not to skip the chapters because it's pretty consequential on that level. And the next step, if you just feel like you need more support, more help, you can always book my Align and Begin session. So the Align and Begin session really is about, we discuss, I understand what's going on with you, to see where clutter or chaos is happening in your life. And we're really just touching on that introductory element of awareness, right? It's really like a fraction of the first phase, I would say, for that first Align and Begin session. And we'll be kind of going through the different areas where you think you want to start. I would say, what is the easy start? You want to clear some chaos in that. And I would share different strategies that you could take away immediately. Something small, something that can create this micro win victory, so to create more confidence and courage to move forward with your each phase. And at the end of the session, I would actually provide like a snapshot of a summary of what we have talked about, and a whole guide on the different strategies that, we talked about, that you can have like a go-to. It serves as this guide for you to jumpstart this journey for you. So of course, even deeper that we have I have a longer 6 months or 12-month container in the online mentorship. But, to me, it's no hurry. It's everybody has their own phase and their own needs and preferences. So it's also a very beautiful way in that Align and Begin session to also see how our energies interact, and how, you experience how I work and the processes and the styles should we want to work further. So that's kind of like the next step.
I love it. I love it. And, you know, as someone who has worked with you, I can feel like this first step is a very safe space to be. Less people admit that they need help to others. And this can be a very private, and nobody needs to know, you know, and Amanda is someone who can just step in, give you a solution, but then give you space to implement the solution, and yet at the same time guidance. So she's not here to fix you. However, she's someone who can really, really give you this real practical, real clear little things that are easy to implement. But then there will be integration that you can go through yourself. And that's really how we grow. And of course, you know, not always one session. For some people it's enough, or for some people they need a session and they need to think about it and then integrate. But sometimes integration is easier together over a period of time. And this is a kind of commitment you can make to yourself. And this is something that is really, it's up to you, but it really helps. It really helps to have that kind of guide, because, you know, when I feel in chaos, very rarely a one-off session takes my chaos away, temporarily, maybe for a day or two, but then it comes back. And therefore, you know, with longer mentorships, I find, especially when you are decluttering your inner world, this is something that you need someone. And I find that, Amanda, you have the energy where, you know, when I'm in a crisis, that I can turn to you straight away. It's very aligned energetically. And there you are. And in that moment, you're the only person I need. Whereas in other moments, I can rely on myself as well, you know, but the crisis moments is definitely. So if you're feeling in crisis, grab a line, Amanda Ling's book, have a read. It's a beautiful, it's one of my favorite type of books, because yes, you can read the whole thing just to get a scope and, you know, and ponder on the prompts, but also it's a kind of book that later on you will already know the stages or the chapters that you would want to, in that moment, revisit. And I love those kind of books where you can pick them up, open in the middle, and there's this chapter just for you. You don't need to read the whole story, because, you know, we're living in such a fast-paced world, who have time to read the whole book again, you know, but to pick it up and just get that reflection. It's not always direct advice for everything, but that's also good, because sometimes you just want to hear what was going on with Amanda, for example, through a certain experience, and then reflect on that within yourself. And I find that kind of work, for me, I'm a very, you know, observer kind of person, you know, so for me, that really, really works. And this is what I really loved in the book. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you, Juliette. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like it's really a time where you have to revisit a lot of things with the crazy changes that's happening in the world. And sometimes, like you say, you know, we just need some help, right? And it's okay to reach out. And I've learned it the harder way. It took me a long time to reach out for help in different ways. But when I do, it's, you know, it's really kind of like a load off the shoulders, you know. And at the end of the day, it's also the willingness and the readiness. I mean, that's an important position to be, you know, that there's a willingness and readiness that you want change, that you want to be better. In that sense, I came across a lot of different clients, you know, in the prior version of myself, where they're just trying to suss out the different ways to work with me, but then the unwillingness to look into their own clutter. I think that this is me talking from the KonMari when I was still doing a lot of like one-on-one consults. And it's really KonMari on that level. It's really kind of together. I'm just there to guide, but you have to look through the clutter and decide for yourself. I could only just give pointers, almost like a therapist there. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, some may have a misconstrued understanding, like, can you just help me just do it? I'll just come back home. You know, like, no, you know, the responsibility is on them. I'm just really kind of a guide to hold them accountable to the actions that we both discussed, what could be the change for them that is comfortable and safe for them to start with. So yeah, that's the approach.
And I love it. And it's true. Sometimes we just don't want to do the work. We just want the work to be done for us. You know, I know this is a little princess archetype that comes out. It's like, oh, look after me, you know, but the truth is that in life, we have to take responsibility, and that hard work and, you know, not wanting to make a decision, but actually when you take responsibility and you make decisions and you allow yourself to integrate, you know, that the consequences of those decisions, it's beautiful.
It's
and
beautiful.
It's so worth it.
Oh, definitely. And in that process, there's so much power that you can bring that back to yourself in your agency and in deciding things for yourself. And to me, that process brought a lot of value to the other parts of my life, in the way I make decisions, in the way I make my stand on things, because clarity arises from all of those. And I think that is something, you know, for my style has always been, I try something and I know that it has helped me, and hence I kind of want to help people in that. And that's the same as for music. You know, I wanted to teach. I love music so much, I became a music teacher. Not just a performer, right? And as a yoga helped me in such a big, like, deep, chaotic time of my life. And I became a yoga teacher on that. And where sound healing comes, it's the same process, and decluttering, it's the same process. So I'm just excited now moving forward. I'm just in that full integration mode, integrating all of these experiences and the multidisciplinary perspectives to be able to guide people through this as well.
I love it. I love it, because not everybody is like that. When you are doing something and you have this calling to share that, it is a calling. You know, this is a purpose, and I love seeing you living in your purpose and synthesizing all of that into quite a unique process. Maybe it's unique and personal to you because it's such a lived experience, and yet it's so helpful and powerful as guidance to people who are your people, who are coming for that guidance because they're ready to do the work, right?
Exactly,
and those are the best who will benefit from this work. So where can we get the book?
You can get it on Amazon. I would be handing you the link. It's available on Kindle or paperback. If you are someone who's tactile and loves like going through the pages of the book like I do. So yeah, those are available on Amazon.
Perfect. And I know that there's more than just the book we can get, that there's some bonuses.
Oh yeah. There's book bonuses included. So you can get into the QR code or the link if you get the book. So there are a few book bonuses in line for you, like supportive materials like audio meditation, some guides. I'm also have compiled all the self-inquiry prompts from each chapter. So it's just kind of like a worksheet style. So you don't have to technically go back to each chapter and do it. It's just all in one. And just a couple of, I don't know there's quite a few in there, but the main ones are basically like a guided visualization, meditation, couple of video interviews, if I'm not wrong. So that's pretty much what's been in the book bonuses. Possibly more to add along the way. You never know. But yeah.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it because it straight away says to me, right, this is not just a read. There is integration available. I can straight away use some tools that a little extra. Guys, I really recommend that you go and grab the book, whether it's a Kindle version that you can download, read now, or get yourself, a physical copy. I do love my books printed, and it's such a beautiful design. It's a beautiful book. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Visibility That Sells Accelerator then?
Yeah, actually, I was wanting to touch on that.
The way we've come across each other was really through my work, and Amanda did one of those marketing blueprint by designs, which are now called Aligned to Be Seen Experience, coincidentally. And then, we started working, and we worked for over a year together inside the Visibility That Sells Accelerator, which is the online visibility mentorship. And within the scope of what we did, there was two projects. We really looked at the Visibility Castle as the website and the positioning, of Amanda, how she comes across online, but also then this pivoted into the book writing. And this was a real book writing. And my ex-husband, Jim, was the editor of the book, which was very kind of good collaboration to have as well. And now the book is out. We can look back at the actual work that we did together. So we are dealing here with the 5-1, as I already mentioned, 5-1 generator energy, the energy of the generator focusing within, and then with the 5-1 profile, again, making it about you, your story, your unique vision, what you see, and then with the 5th line, leadership and being able to bring the solutions that are practical and timely. For me, reading this book was very, very satisfying for me as a guide, because, this kind of synthesized the whole work that we did together. But what I would love to hear from you, Amanda, is your feedback on this last year and what we've done together. Not Juliette, great feedback, but what did it do for you?
Wow. It has been a really amazing, phenomenal journey, to the least, for me. Just kind of rewinding back to even how I got to you. I was in the couple of years in that quest of understanding. I've been, acquainted with human design in 2018, about thereabouts, but only kind of deep dive into it during the pandemic. And I realized when I read through different things, had a couple of other consultations and here and there, I was really kind of struggling with this element of the marketing aspect, because that's, to me, was one of the weaknesses that I think I have. And I took a lot of sales and marketing, workshop courses, and it just didn't align with what I felt and how it can be authentic, or rather inauthentic, for me. And I was just looking around, scouting the internet, and, found your article. And I think that's one of the most popular articles about the 5-1 projection field. And that was the thing that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like, exactly what I experienced, or you were just highlighting it from that perspective, and in the way of like showing up in the world and in the visibility element. And at that time, I was deliberately invisible because I needed that cocooning time for myself to just, recalibrate many areas of my life. And that's where I kind of jumped on that call with you for your first, with the first call we had. And then I decided on that whole journey together. And I think what was really important for me was that very initial, I think the first few calls of, for you to kind of, give me the permission to delayer all of these projections. I was like, oh, this projection, that projection, this and that, and to even understand how to work the projection field in a way that I don't have to be fearful about it, but just to reframe it and actually leverage on that in a positive, empowering way. And I think that was a lot of mindset shift for myself first, in order to feel confident and to really own that 5-1 energy that I have been, because of not being aware, living in some of the shadow aspects of the 5-1 generator. And I was experiencing burnout at some point because I was doing things that didn't light me up, right? Or it did at some point, but then I continued on when I reached a plateau and it just didn't make sense for me over time. So I just needed some clarity around the processes, the place that I was in, and what I would like to move on, moving forward. And that's where I think you really did help, like, create this structure of, okay, let's work on the website, let's work on this, let's work on that. And I was in a point of time that, yes, I'm very on the ball with action. And like, I have done so many different varieties of things, and I just need a sure way, sure win kind of situation for me. And I think for me, in the context of astrological elements, I have, done quite deep, the line one, the line one thing of going to different astrological aspects of like feng shui, right? Astrology from the Chinese perspective, to the Mayan astrology, and to the the Vedic astrology and human design. And I put everything together. And I mean, they all speak of same way, different language. But I think it's the human design that was the most practical for me to kind of apply very immediately or understand. I think it helps me to understand why certain things didn't happen, why does that happen, and why all of these whys. And at the same time, it gives this solution based on the strategy and authority. So knowing that it was my first experiment, right, to just decide on even things like what should I eat today. And I realized even simple things of what should I eat, that's the wrong question. Is do I want this or this? That's a generator thing that I realized that I can't have open-ended questions. Yeah. So it was something that I've learned in my way in my own human design learning journey. And when I work with you, it's very easy, in terms of the element of, okay, because you would give me an option. Does this feel good for me? Right. And I think you were already kind of eliciting all of these like responses from me, whether it feels good or not, to be able to discern the next step, for us and in what's best for me. Because you can always suggest so many things, but at the end of the day, I have to feel confident and great about it. And I think you gave that space for that to exploration but also in that sense of like steady head, steadfast, like chop, chop, let's get it, let's go do it, because I think that's where we tend to trip up, well, at least for me, in like decisions, like I'm not so sure because of the fear of the projection, right? So I felt really comfortable and confident because you had the vote of confidence that don't worry about the projections, you just go, because we are now in the right strategy. So I really appreciated the whole process. And I think every session with you, and it's just like a light bulb, moment of like positivity and giving me that courage to just do something. And it's something different that I'm doing with myself, for myself. And like, I never had what I call marketing mentor in my life. And this has been the first, and it's amazing. And how I have slowly built this, what you say, the castle of visibility. And I think, I'm going through that in a very steady, stable, comfortable way. Yeah.
I love that. And for a generator, if you're a generator type, fast is not your word. I mean, I'm not talking about manifesting generators. If you're a generator, you are here to do slow and steady. Imagine a whale or an elephant, a big, big animal, but it has the stamina to cover so much. It feels like it's a slow animal, but it's not, because it has the stamina. And so slow and steady is the way. And when we're talking about building a castle, obviously, we worked for 12 months, maybe a little bit over 12 months on the visibility, but the castle is a lifetime journey. Like, I have a visibility castle, but it's still being built. Every time I write something, it's a brick, right? Every time you do an interview, it's an embellishment somewhere. There's always work. And then it's like at home, we want to change things. We want to change our environment. We want to change the interior design. And it's a kind of ongoing process. And I think it's really important to just allow this work to be happening, because this is what marketing is. When you see it as building your castle, and not like, I feel like when we say promote myself, I need to put myself out there, it's very unsafe how it feels, and that can, especially with the fifth line mind, the underlying paranoia is sort of like, what's going to happen if, what else will they want from me, or what other projections will be, because there's a lot of drama when you don't understand what is actually happening. And I think the projection field, I don't have the fifth line in my profile. I do have it in my nodes, actually, which I think maybe that's why I understand, I understand what it might feel like, or, that there is these mechanics. For me, it's become so interesting, and I really enjoyed guiding you. But also I have to say that within our work, you're one of the people who you've taken so much action. Every time, every month that we meet, you felt slow. There were life interfering. There were so many things that were interfering as you felt. And yet, despite of all that, overall, you have done so much. You've written a book, you have revamped your website, you have revamped your funnels, as in you have the clarity now how you want to work with people that suits you, that feels good to you. So you're not going to sabotage this or question this, because that's now you just have to integrate this. And this is what I really love about this process, because it's like building these foundations, but it's a clarity and some kind of, certainty, I think, maybe inside that, okay, I have my now structure. Now I can think about the interior design, now I can, see things how they are. And then you kind of blossom within this.
I'm so thankful for that process, because it's only in my later part of my adult life that I appreciate structures, because I've always been go with the flow, like take everything as it is. And I think that's why then I approached that burnout, right? And suffered the projection fields, because I didn't quite have my own structures internally to kind of know what's okay, not okay. And that's the people-pleasing trait that happen as a projection field comes bigger. So now I get it, right? And having all of these reinforcements just help with just making life easier, right? At the end of the day, with work, with life, because I think the way of thinking as I have approached in this time we work together has also translated to just life, right? In understanding what I can be in conversations or not, in terms of understanding the profile lines and how it can look like, sound like, and all of that. It informs different places in life, and that is something that I see the value in that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I recently heard Richard Rudd saying that even if we don't know any of the gates or anything, but we just follow our lines and the storyline behind our lines, we will actually get that, well, let's call it alignment in the vibe of this whole conversation. And I really, this is what I love, because your business, especially a business like yours or mine, this is an extension of who you are. This is not a separate thing. This is not just even when people have a brick and mortar business, it's still an extension of who they are. And with this, when you're reaching out, when you're sharing through content, especially such personal content like your book, it's such a book about your personal journey, but it's so deep and helpful. And it does then leak. Let's call it leak, because you don't expect that it's going to. But it leaks everywhere. So with the journey of your business, as you establish your business and you find your ways, you also learn to set boundaries. You also learn to respect yourself more. You learn not to people please. You learn who your people are eventually, not straight away. You never know who your ideal client is until you really been around people for a while within this context. You allow yourself to be the way you are, and that it's okay to be the way you are. I think this is all, the online visibility mentorship is not just about how your website looks, right? It's all those other things, because when that is aligned, then you can show up. And you should be showing up while you're aligning. This is really important, that there's no destination that you're ready. And, I can say, like, somebody jokingly called me the queen of visibility back in, 2018. And I took it and I owned it as my brand. And, but the truth is that I am always insecure, because this is part of my shadows, with my, personality and my human design. And this insecurity, everybody experiences it. You always feel like, oh, what if I'm not saying the right thing? What if I'm not, the right person? What if I'm talking too fast? What if I am ugly? What if I am, and this, what if this foundation, but it all, we have all designs. We have certain designs that are we broadcasting that are set, but fixed, but we also have everything. We experience everything. And that insecurity, that first line insecurity, we all have, and yet, despite of that, we can show up and we can build the castles and we can do things, and despite of constant confusion, despite of not, doubting yourself all the time. Those are my design, big shadows, but we all have them. Don't wait until you're ready, because that's never going to happen, because you're going to have these shadows always. They're just going to be there, but it's okay. We learn to live with them. It's not about actually overcoming them, because you can't. They're going to be there. It's a frequency. And I think 12 months, sometimes, and I find that, Amanda, I would say that you're an action taker. Another person would not make as much progress in 12 months. And that's also okay. because the divine timing is different for
I agree,
everyone.
yeah.
And, influences and just processing, like I know I'm really slow, things like I'm 10 years now in business, and it took a long time before the business became consistent and I found myself. And I think it's always still evolution. And it's such a beautiful journey. So I want to thank you for being with me for these 12 months and actually taking so much action, even though
Thank
you didn't
you.
feel it at
Yeah.
the time.
It's been a pleasure, and it's always really exciting for me because it's like this little, for me, it's like a little nuggets of like mini achievements each time that I meet with you, and the next thing that I will do, and I will kind of like go through with what I've done and the processes. It's exciting, and I think also because I'm in that readiness, I'm in that element of like, okay, I really need this new way of doing things, and I've hit a plateau, a big plateau, like over the whole pandemic, right? So it has taken me 4 years, 5 years to kind of really find my footing, just to integrate my last 20-ish years worth of everything coming through. And I think I know that I deserve that slowness. It seems too slow for people, but I don't care. So I think that's something that I have come to learn. This whole thing about learning the projection field is always going to be there, but it's just kind of building up your baseline resilience of like, it's not my problem. It's not me.
It's
not about
true,
me.
but to integrate 20 years of life,
Oh, it's
let's
huge.
just think
It's
about
huge,
it.
yeah.
How far? Yeah, it's huge. How can you do it in like 3 months? How can you do it in 90 days? There's a myth, especially with the online visibility, getting clients, establishing your business. There's a big myth or many myths about how long it takes. And I love this expression. I don't know, maybe it's a quote and somebody said it initially, but we always underestimate what we can do in the long term, and we overestimate what we will do in the short term. And in the short term, and then we get disappointed, like in 12 months, oh, not that much progress. I'm not like I don't have a 7-figure business, and that person there on Instagram said that they do, and I haven't, I'm a failure. But it's a lie. It's an illusion that's created by this world. And it's not slow. 3, 4, 5 years, to establish a business, it takes a long time. And the trajectory is really the first few years, you're literally flatlining. You might have like a little spike. You might have a launch. Then you sabotage yourself. You usually do it to yourself, and by the time it becomes, then it can like a hockey stick kind of, it goes up because you figured things out, and now you can commit to yourself because, you have the evidence within yourself. But it does take a long time. And I think that this is really important because when you think about where you've been 5 years ago and where you are now, it doesn't matter, it's not even about the financial security that is, and it's great when that also, aligned. But it's not about it. But when you're talking about how much has changed, how much you've integrated, how much freedom are you gaining by just thinking a certain way, I think that this is huge. And this is, as I joke that I'm a slow person. I am slow because I didn't build my business in 90 days, and it's fine. And it takes so long to process because we are both one line, the first line, but it's not just the first line who processes slow. And it's not only manifesting generators who act fast. They act fast, but they make a lot of mistakes and skip a lot of very important foundational steps. So nobody's perfect. There is no type
That's
or
true.
a profile that is successful and the rest just kind of pulled the short straw. It just doesn't happen. And we are all in the same boat. This is what I love. And I think that what you said as well about human design is a practical tool. There is a lot of modalities, and they all brought by, into the world by some humans, so that used specific words and maybe different modalities. I love Batsy astrology as well. It can give you some other wording that will make sense. It never contradicts each other, but it gives you these, other ways to look at things, sometimes more philosophical and, you need to contemplate and live with it and sit with it. And sometimes it's super practical. And that's why human design is really, I feel, such a compass. It's not, you don't need to go and learn it. That's the most important thing. I always say you don't actually need, because even if you just Stop asking yourself open-ended questions as a generator, right? And just kind of focused on one thing at a time and seeing if it's a yes or no response to it. That's already huge, because it's going to change how you are operating in your life, and a lot of other things can adjust. And then the profile lines, this is about the brand, and the brand is not just a marketing thing. It's who you are, who you think you are, and how you feel like you're interacting with the world, and then how the world sees you and how they see you interacting with the world. And a conflict can happen. So it's really, I think it's safe and good to just know the mechanics, because even in the situation where there's a conflict, it could be your client, you know, like we all like complain. I remember I was saying, I'm a magnet to nightmare clients because I didn't understand the dynamics. I didn't understand the mechanics, what's going on within this interaction, and also how am I showing up, even if I don't know their design, because obviously most of the time we don't know. But what can I control? I can control the perception of, or my understanding of my design, and then either lean more into this or hold back some other things that I know are causing friction. And, you know, especially with the fifth line, for example, the third line making mistake, the fifth lines with, you know, the projections trying to be perfect always, and not wanting to be vulnerable. And, you know, there's so many interesting things, and that's what the strategy is. And that's why I think that this process is so enjoyable as well.
Wonderful insights. Wonderful insights.
Yes, thank you so much. And
thank you,
guys, if you need guidance, and you know, I'm here. I'm not the only one in the world who guides, obviously, but I really, really would. If you feel like, if you watch this, for example, interview, and you felt like this is what I want, you know where to find me. Reach out, and we can see how I can guide you. Invite me to guide you, as they say, for the projector. Amanda, thank you so much.
Thank you.